Injuries and death should be the last two things that you experience when you attend a concert. And after watching Netflix's new documentary, Trainwreck, the Astroworld Tragedy, there's some things that I want to talk to you guys about from a licensed therapist perspective. Hey everybody, if you are new to my channel, welcome. But if you are a returning subscriber, you already know how my review videos go. Full disclosure, there will be some spoilers in here. So if you have not watched this documentary, please go on over to Netflix. It's less than 2 hours long, and then come back and chat with us in the comments. I want to know, what did you guys think about this documentary? But also, what did you think about Travis Scott, the attendees, and everything that went down? Let's chat about it. The first thing that I want to talk to you guys about is collective trauma and vicarious trauma. Collective trauma means everybody at this festival, at this concert, whatever you want to call it, was impacted. They saw deaths, they saw people getting injured, they saw people suffocating, being unable to breathe, they saw people being worked on, they saw people in the fear on their faces, trying to get over barricades, trying to get out. All of those things is what we call a collective trauma. They experience those things together, and it's something that you never forget. Kind of a thing of like, if you weren't there firsthand, you really don't understand what really went down. And this type of thing, it bonds those people forever. And if I'm being honest, their lives are also changed forever, permanently. This doesn't just include those who were at the festival, at the concert, who experienced those things, but this also means the family members of those who were injured and passed away, they experienced this collective trauma too. Now, vicarious trauma is when you weren't really there. You weren't there at all, but because you watched it online, you seen it, you heard about it, you saw the videos, and it was all over social media, you experienced a form of trauma. And oftentimes you experience some of the symptoms of someone who experienced it firsthand. So you are fearful, you are nervous, you might experience some crying, you might experience some sadness. And I experienced some of those things just watching the documentary. My heart went out to all of the people that were there that night because they experienced something that should have never happened. The second thing I want to talk to you guys about is survivor's guilt. When you watch this documentary, you see all of the different friends, all of the family members of people who lost their loved ones. And the thread was constantly like, should I have done something differently? Could I have done more? Should I have helped more? Should we not have gone? They feel so much guilt about how the events of that night played out. And we heard a lot of, why me? Why did I survive when other people didn't? It could have been me. It should have been me. There's this level of blaming themselves when a lot of the things were outside of their control. I could not get over this mob mentality that was going down. Now, I am not a Travis Scott fan. I have never listened to his music. I have never gone to a concert, and I never will. The mob mentality, the togetherness, the crowd think. When you're in large crowds and things go down, you typically act how other people in the crowd act. Now, this might be a black people thing, but think about, this is a great example. Think about how if a group of especially black people or people of color are in a crowd, right? And then one person starts running. Guess what everybody else gonna do? We're gonna take off running, right? Because we don't have to know what's going down. We don't have to know what's happening, but we just need to get out of danger and out of harm's way. And then we'll get questions and ask questions later, okay? But we need to get to safety first. And so you kind of do what the other crowd members will do. We saw a lot of that with how Travis Scott manages his crowd and the things that he tells them to do. They kind of see him as God, and they try to see him as like this little pedestal because he's in Houston and he made it out the mud, and you know, he brought Astroworld back when the whole amusement park shut down, and so they look up to him in a certain way. But after all of this, I'm wondering if people's perspective changed a lot about him. Now, before I move on to the next one, I gotta give credit to the two people who got up on stage and was like, stop the show, people are dying, people can't breathe, help, stop the show, this is too much, because they were literally being packed in like sardines and literally can't breathe. People were falling on top of one another, they were moving with the crowd, people are literally suffocating. And there was a man, I can't think of his name, and there was also a woman who got up on stage and said, help, please stop the show. And the guy was like, get off the stage, move, you know, and they just carried on. But it takes a lot of courage for you to go against the crowd. It takes a lot of courage to stop the show where people have paid a lot of money and invested a lot of time and energy to say, hey, people are dying. Let's bring some awareness to this. So I tip my hat off to those people because they were extremely brave. Now, when you are experiencing survivor's guilt, there's a lot of aftermath that comes with that, right? There's a normal trauma response that happens when you go through a traumatic event and you survive. You will be probably more hypervigilant. You're going to be looking around when you go places. You're going to always notice the exits and say, okay, the exit is over there. If something goes down, we got to run this way. There's 2 exits behind. You're going to know where the exit plan and the exit strategy is. You're also probably not going to want to be around large crowds or panic when you are in large crowds as well. Or you might just go all the way to the extreme and say, heck no, I'm not doing any more concerts or festivals ever anymore. I'm not mad at the people who choose to do any of those things or experience those things because that's a normal trauma response. Your nervous system is naturally in fight, flight, or freeze mode when you experience something like that. The next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is broken trust. And I'm talking about broken trust with Travis Scott, with all of the event staff, with security, with the first responders personnel, with the police, whoever was in charge. Trust was broken. I was expecting y'all to make sure everybody was safe at all times. Now, I'll give Travis Scott one little thing. There was a segment in the documentary there where someone who passed away and he stopped the show, for a quick little minute and was just like, hey, get this person help. They passed out. They literally put his body over the people, got him out. And then a few minutes later, he just went right back to performing. That part wasn't cool. If you see one person passing out, chances are there's gonna be somebody else passing out too. But there were so many people who dropped the ball. Live Nation dropped the ball because y'all knew the whole setup, the arrangements, how the crowd was. Y'all was sending text messages saying, oh, this doesn't look good. I hope no one dies. And then guess what? 10 people pass away and there's hundreds of people who were injured. This could have been prevented. This doesn't just stay with concerts, right? The distrust grows and it increases for other areas of people's lives too, because when something goes down, an emergency goes down, they're not confident that the police is gonna show up, that the paramedics is gonna show up, that whoever is going to show up and do their job to keep people safe. So this has some lasting trickle effects that goes beyond just this one Travis Scott concert. And it makes you question, will you continue to support Travis Scott? Will you continue to like his music or buy his music or buy his merch? And obviously there's many people who still do because they said like he's one of the top solo rap concerts making like $219 million from one concert, something of that nature. Like there's tons of people who still go to his concerts and support him no matter what went down. It seems like as time passes, we tend to forget real easy. What we forget, we oftentimes repeat. So after watching this documentary, I feel like there's a lot of people who dropped the ball. So I'm not just gonna blame Travis, but baby, this concert is your concert. It has your name on it. You were the one who had, more so control over what's going on in the crowd. You need to be looking and paying attention. And I'm just not a big fan of the interviews and the conversations and what he said online after the concert. I feel like he could have done a lot more. Now, obviously, the court cases were settled for an undisclosed amount of money and all of those things, but I feel like a lot more could have been done and could have been said. And the way he went about it didn't really give the level of empathy that it should have given, being that people lost their lives at your concert under your name. Now, I hope and pray nothing like this ever happens again, specifically with Travis Scott, but with any artist. But as a bonus, there's something else that was just bothering me in my spirit when I was watching this documentary. Now, some of y'all may not rock with this part or not, but I don't want you guys to miss the fact that there was a spiritual component to this. Absolutely, positively nothing done at concerts are happenstance or accidental. Meaning everything is strategic. Somebody got to sign off on something. So the fact that you were having a full-blown concert on top of a cross, your stage was a literal cross, and you had fire in the background looking like you were in hell, that's not a coincidence. His lyrics and what he says in that, It's not a coincidence. Mob mentality and how he kind of has control over the crowd to make them do whatever he say to do, that's not a coincidence. I vividly remember after this event happening, there was a few videos on TikTok where there were women and girls and people just basically saying like, hey, I left the concert because it felt very satanic, very demonic. Something was off in my spirit, so I didn't go. I was like, yep. This is something that we often miss in the entertainment or the music industry, period. So I'm not gonna get on my soapbox in regards to that, but I want you to be physically safe and spiritually safe when you're out here at these concerts. So thank you so much for watching another review on my channel. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, stick around and watch some more of my movie and TV show reviews, and I will see you next time. Be blessed. Bye.